Politics and schools, that is the topic of tonight's Byline. We expect as parents, or for some of you as grandparents, that when we send our kids to school, they will get an education, not an indoctrination. I know that after years of environmentalism and radical sex ed programs being shoved into the school curriculum, you'd think I'd be cured of this idea. That schools are propaganda-free zones, and somewhat I am, for the most part. But I was still shocked by what I saw coming from one school principal in Millerville, Alberta. Ted Thorne used a school newsletter he sent home with the kids to every family home as an outlet to bash the Wild Rose Party during the Alberta election. The Wild Rose group is an unknown lot for the most part, with no idea on the part of the public what lies in store. Not content just to bash one party, Thorne went on to endorse another party. The Conservatives are a well-seasoned group, which has been in power for 40 years, and as Peter Lougheed recently stated, it is due to the present party leading the Alberta government that this province is as great as it is. Wow. Just wow. Now, look, that may be Mr. Thorne's personal view, and I encourage everyone to get involved, stand for what you believe in, work for a candidate if you're able to. But using a school newsletter to send home your political views detailing why parents should elect the party of your choice is an abuse of power. In the last Ontario election, one of my children, in elementary school no less, had to sit through a lesson on how the NDP and Liberals care for the poor and the Conservatives only care for themselves. So I know this happens, but a principal sending home a note on why people should vote for one party over the other is still shocking. Maybe I am naive, though. The evidence of collusion between the education establishment and Premier Redford's campaign is piling up. It's already been revealed that several school districts have donated using taxpayers' money. They donated to the Progressive Conservative Party or bought tickets to partisan fundraising events as a way to curry favor with Premier Alison Redford. Not that there's any need. Redford has been buying off the teachers and is now reaping some of the rewards. She won her party's leadership by promising the moon to teachers and then followed up by putting millions of dollars into the education budget. Money the province doesn't have. No, instead, she's letting Alberta's debt continue to grow, and she took the money out of the Heritage Fund. That's the money that's supposed to be set aside for when oil and gas wells run dry, or for when you need to buy leadership votes. Ms. Redford is still trying to buy the votes in support of teachers. She's promised a tax break just for teachers. It's in her platform, a tax break just for teachers if she's reelected. Maybe that's why the school system is so willing to be used for her reelection. Take a look at this flyer that went home to school kids across Alberta just before the election was called. Technically, it's not a campaign document because it comes from the government of Alberta and not the PCs. Still, that and the timing, it's just all loophole stuff, as the editorial in the Edmonton Sun called it last week. And the timing is absolutely revolting. The flyer details the government's spending promises and all the great things they're doing for education. Sent immediately before an election everyone knew was coming. Politics can be a dirty sport, but using our schools to push partisan politics is unacceptable. Using taxpayers' money to buy off the education establishment so they'll push your agenda in the schoolhouse is despicable. Shame on all of them. And that's the Byline.
And that means services are going to be cut.
Which will mean deep cut.
That's nurses and that's teachers.
That's in our schools and in our hospitals.
Hospitals across the province wouldn't open.
The last guys closed 28 hospitals.
Continuing to provide services for Albertans.
Protecting services for families.
Building family care clinics.
Build more hospitals.
New energy economy.
Clean energy future.
It's just an interesting little juxtaposition between Ontario Premier Dalton McGuinty and Alberta Premier Alison Redford. I actually called her Premier Mom a little while ago. Some of you got upset at that, but they are similar in many ways, and maybe that's why our next guest, Warren Kinsella, seems to like Premier Redford so much lately. Warren, you've been writing up quite a storm about the greatness of Redford and the horrors of Wild Rose lately.
No, mainly the rottenness of Wild Rose.
Yeah, well, I know you're not a fan of Wild Rose. We know that. But is Redford more of a progressive than a conservative in terms of how she approaches these things?
I think that's a very good question. Certainly when contrasted to Wild Rose, she definitely looks like much more of a progressive. But I mean, she's got three opponents on her left: the Alberta Party, the Alberta Liberals, and the New Democrats. So I don't think any of them would agree that she is a progressive, or at least as much of a progressive as she is. But it certainly explains what's happened in this campaign. She is the ham and the sandwich. She's being targeted by four different parties, and that's a pretty tough proposition anytime.
Now, as I was saying in the monologue a moment ago, this is a party that, a premier anyway, she's decided that, like McGuinty, she wants to be the education premier. But as much as I'll complain Dalton McGuinty has given away too much in terms of contracts to teachers and tried to buy labor peace in the wrong way, I don't think that he's actually bribed them in a way of taking donations from school boards, having teachers send home partisan letters, as we saw in Millerville, saying, vote for these guys. That's a bit odd for a campaign of any kind.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think what happened in Millerville, I mean, it's Millerville. I don't think a lot of people could find it on a map before today, but or at least Central Canadians couldn't find it. But
and then there was.
But I mean, it shouldn't have happened. It's unacceptable.
It shouldn't have happened.
But it happened to us in the provincial campaign. We had a conservative trustee at the Toronto District Catholic School Board who also did stuff saying to his constituents, vote Conservative, don't vote Liberal, in his newsletter, and that was equally unacceptable.
Well, that's a trustee. It's a bit different than a school principal sending a letter home.
Yeah, it's worse because it's going to more people.
So we used taxpayers' money to send it out? That's bad too.
Yeah.
The other one was the Edmonton letter that was sent out, detailing, here's all the things we did, here's all the money we're spending on education. These sorts of things happen in politics, but we're supposed to get rid of them. Now, you brought up an interesting thing that I wasn't aware of, the Toronto Star playing dirty politics a little bit here.
Just about an hour ago, the Toronto Star had, as the lead item on its website, a video with an accompanying story. And what the video was of Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, who I am no fan of, going into a Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Really? You're not a fan of Rob Ford?
I know, it's hard to believe.
I thought you were a huge fan of Rob Ford.
But somebody did a video on YouTube, we've got up here,
okay, sorry,
showing
Warren,
him going in.
Apparently. Oh, I thought so. I thought I heard 1 minute in my ear, though. I thought I heard somebody say 1 minute, so I jumped to Ford.
Yeah, it seemed kind of short.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Warren, they were in the middle of rolling something else when we jumped to Ford.
Okay, can they keep everything before, though?
No.
Oh, Christ.
It'll take 3 minutes. We'll do it quick. Sorry. Because you and I were on screen. That's why they can't do a cut.
Oh, I see.
And that means services are going to be cut.
Which will mean deep cut.
That's nurses and that's teachers.
That's in our schools and in our hospitals.
Hospitals across the province wouldn't open.
The last guys closed 28 hospitals.
Continuing to provide services for Albertans.
Protecting services for families.
Building family care clinics.
Build more hospitals.
New energy economy.
Clean energy future.
It's a little bit like the old ABC detergent ad, isn't it? The two guys standing next to each other. Can you tell the difference? I can't tell the difference. Maybe that's why our next guest, Warren Kinsella, likes Premier Alison Redford so much. Sounds a lot like his man, Premier Dalton McGuinty from Ontario. So is Redford just an Ontario Liberal living out in Alberta? Is that what's going on?
I don't think so, but I mean, I'm delighted to see any Conservative emulate Premier McGuinty because it means, that we're doing okay. No, I think that there's a criticism that she is more of a progressive than a Conservative. I don't think that's necessarily true. She's certainly progressive compared to Wild Rose, who I think are bursting at the seams with some nutcases. But, you know, the Alberta Party, the new Alberta New Democrats, the Alberta Liberals would all say she's still a conservative. So she, I think, is a progressive conservative. And the one thing, I guess the reason why I've been so critical of Wildrose and that why I think that Redford's the only choice for Alberta is if you want to stop Wildrose, there's only one party can do it, and it's Alison Redford.
Well, and you were even posting a bit of a wild video on your website earlier today about I can't believe I'm going to vote PC or something like that. If that was put out by the Progressive Conservative Party or there's any association with them, I think a lot of Albertans are going to be insulted by some of the language in that. I don't know who put that out, but they essentially make it.
No, a commenter put it up on my website.
Oh,
I actually
commented
haven't
it.
even
Okay.
seen it. But that is a legitimate point of view. You know, the Liberal vote in and around Calgary, for example, which, as you know, Alberta Liberals have held seats in Calgary since 1986. It's collapsing because a lot of Liberals have come around to the point of view that I have, which is if you're going to stop Wildrose, you're going to keep these kind of kooky people out of government, you got to vote for Redford. You may not like it, but hold your nose and vote for her.
Okay, I don't know if that's an endorsement that she'd want. Warren Kinsella says you're great. What do you say to that, Premier Redford? We'll have to see. Now, what do you make of these school things, though? We've got two of them. We've got the Edmonton one, but the one that's more bothersome, well, I don't know which one is. You got the one from the school principal saying, don't vote for Wildrose. They're kooky. You should be voting for these guys because they're wonderful and solid and made Alberta great. And then you've got this other one, kind of using taxpayers' money. There we have it again, Principal Thorne. The Wildrose group is an unknown lot. And then you've got the other one in Edmonton and Red Deer, basically using taxpayers' money to extol the virtues of the government immediately before an election.
Both of them absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong that any public servant, whether a principal or a trustee or what have you, use public funds to promote a particular political choice, particularly during an election campaign. It is wrong. They shouldn't do it. They should be condemned for it. We experienced the same thing during the Ontario election in the fall. The Toronto Catholic District School Board has a very conservative guy there who used public funds to print up a newsletter that went to thousands of people, or was aimed at thousands of people, promoting the Conservative Party of Ontario and attacking McGuinty. Equally wrong. Should never happen.
You want to do it on your own dime, fill your boots.
Exactly.
But don't use the taxpayers'
Absolutely.
money. Now, I want to ask you about a good friend of yours, Rob Ford, because you alerted me to a video of your buddy going out for KFC. How is this news? Why'd you bring it up?
Well, it was on the Toronto Star website a little while ago, this afternoon, and basically it's a video of him, as we can see, going into Kentucky Fried Chicken outlet. Big deal. The Toronto Star actually put this video in an accompanying news story as their top item on their website, and it's people making fun of Ford.
And you're not bringing this up because you think this is a good use of journalism, or a good example of journalism.
He's not somebody I support his policies, but going after him because of his physical appearance is a disgrace. And what made it even worse is that the Toronto Star actually considered this to be their top news item for this afternoon. And shame on them. That's not acceptable.
It wasn't on a blog or something. This was right up front, huh?
Yeah. And so anyway, I think they owe an apology to Rob Ford. Never thought I'd say that, but there you go.
Well, we'll see if they do it. Warren Kinsella, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.